Well, hello, friends. Mark Holmes here with my buddy CowboyJobu, and as always, thank you guys for watching, commenting, and subscribing to the Jobu Sports Report. Because without you guys, well, this just doesn't work. I got my buddy over here, John G., and John called me earlier today because we were talking about the possibility that we're hearing rumors that the Dallas Cowboys may be interested in Trumaine Johnson from the Rams. And we started getting a conversation. I said, pump the brakes there, John. I said, hold up. Because we're basically getting into a debate, and it would be better to be able to put everybody else in this debate together. John, say hello to everybody. How you doing tonight?
Yo, what's up, Cowboys Nation? How y'all doing out there, man? It's crunch time. Let's go.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. I've only seen in a couple places where they're talking about the Cowboys are interested in trying to make a move for him, and we started talking about the possibilities if this would be a good move or a bad move. And I'm going to try and be better because some of you guys have said that I have a tendency to cut people off, and I apologize for that. But I can get very heated and very emotional, so I will try not to tonight. So you give me your first thoughts on that possibility of Trumaine Johnson.
Okay, similar to how your video was earlier, I am actually ecstatic that we're even thinking of doing something because the last couple of days for Cowboys fans, it's been kind of nerve-wracking. That's right. As you grab your bottle of rum, yeah, that's how we've been. Because we're watching everybody else make these type of trades.
It started the weekend out full, okay?
Exactly. So we've been watching everybody else make these type of moves. So I gotta applaud them for at least maybe they had a plan all along. But Trumaine Johnson, my first thoughts of when I'm thinking about him and I'm looking at his numbers and his production. He's a solid corner. He's better than anybody that we have on our roster.
I was going to say.
But what I'm going to say is I look at what the Rams did and going and giving up a couple of picks to bring in Peters, which Peters is already, as a young player, is already one of the better corners in the league. So that let me know right then and there that because they were letting Trumaine Johnson walk in free agency, they automatically think that Peters is better than him. So that's one thing that I think.
Not necessarily better, but maybe more affordable.
More affordable.
There's two different schools of thought there.
But I'm also looking at Pro Bowls and All Pros and stuff. I'm not sure if he made All Pros, but I do know he was in the Pro Bowl. Peters.
Right. Okay. Well, okay. No, I'm not trying to cut you off, but okay. So here's what I did because again, I know who he is and everything else, but I wanted to check the numbers. He was actually franchise tagged by them, so he got paid $13 million because they couldn't work out a long-term deal. So that may be the first problem right there is they're looking at the problems that we have money-wise are we've been paying people big salaries like Des Bryant. And they probably don't want to get into that whole thing. Because I'm looking at the numbers. Last year he had 65 tackles, 2 interceptions, 13 pass defended, and a touchdown interception for return. 2016, 57 tackles, 1 interception. So the numbers are consistent. And he's 28 years old, been in the league since 2012. 327 tackles. Now, here's the interesting thing on those 65 tackles. 58 of them were solo tackles. Okay, so that's not bad numbers. Now, by comparison, if we talk about Aqib Talib, and I know I butchered that name.
No, you got it right. You got it right.
He 32 years old, so he's 4 years older. 31 tackles to 65. 7 pass defended to 13. And 1 interception to 2. So you're talking about half of the numbers right there with Talib. But 32 years of age, I'm sure that contract is a little more team-friendly than having a long-term deal right there. Now, Jason Peters' numbers, only 46 tackles. Now, again, a lot of that may be skewed because maybe people went away from him, but he did have 5 interceptions. So, clearly, Peters has, more interceptions but less tackles. So we're not talking about a guy who's a scrub, and it's consistent. And the thing that I also noticed is he's only missed 1 game due to an injury in his career. So from that standpoint, yeah, he's a player. The question is, how much is it going to cost for the Cowboys to bring him in? And we're looking at a position where, let's face it, we got more cornerbacks than we do safeties, you know? That's kind of the spot that you look at it and say, yeah, well, that's great that you're bringing in a guy. You're definitely going to step up production because our best corner last year was Lewis with 1 interception and 54 tackles. So clearly, he's an improvement over anybody we got on the field this year, provided that if Awuzi's numbers had translated to a full season, he would have been, just as good. So I can see where they're looking at right there.
Okay. Well, see, I was with you on the money train thing, and you brought up Talib, and I'm glad you did because he's going to put, what, $11 million this year?
Something like
and
that,
And then $8 million the next.
Mm-hmm.
But you also got to look at the track record. Like, tackles are cool for a corner as far as, like, if we're talking about linebackers, tackles are, that's everything. But for a cornerback, you got to figure out the system that you're working in, and you also have to figure out what they're asking you to do. For Akeem Talib, they're asking him to pretty much shadow your best guy every week. So if he's erasing that guy, how many tackles is he ultimately going to have anyway?
True. Now, here's the flip side of here, because see, I think that this could be more of a grand scheme. Because here's the thing. In football, what you have to do, and one thing that we have not taken advantage of, is realize that your players are a commodity that as they start getting older, you can use them to trade with. The Dallas Cowboys end up holding on to their guys way too long. You could basically go back to DeMarcus Ware and say the year before we cut him, it would have been better for us to have traded him and gotten something back because he only got 6 tackles that last year he was here. You held on to him too long where he didn't have a value and you couldn't trade him. That's where we are at Dez Bryant. Dez Bryant, injury history, big cap number, nobody's going to trade for him. So they're looking at, or we should be looking at, is Byron Jones tradable?
I'm glad you brought that up.
Because, if you're
glad you brought that up.
Okay, because basically, you moved him to corner because, you figure we need an upgrade in safety. But you already had Lewis. You already had Awuzie. You already had Anthony Brown and things. You have some other young guys. You got a logjam there. Now, if you bring in him, somebody is going to be able to be used as trade bait. And maybe the plan is, okay, we take, and I said this before, take Byron Jones, and maybe you're using him and trading him for Earl.
I've been saying he's trade bait because here's the thing. This is what we suck at managing people, at players.
Yeah.
Like we've gotten better at drafting players, but we've gotten better at drafting solid players.
Yeah.
But this is what we do. We hold on to solid players and we pay them top level money.
That's the problem.
That's the problem because see, if you allow them to walk, then you allow them to walk. Then you're getting compensatory picks for them later on, where you're still drafting solid players and you're keeping your money down. We're not doing that. See, I'm glad that you brought up the whole franchise tagging of Trumaine Johnson, what the Rams had done. We're in the same boat with DeMarcus Lawrence because we don't know whether or not he's going to produce this year the same way. We haven't seen it consistently, so that's what we're asking right now.
Yeah. And see, that's, unfortunately, 28 is one of those bewitching years because usually that's about where you're at your peak, and you end up getting that big contract, but more times than not, your production starts going downhill. You can go back through every wide receiver that's had a big contract. All of a sudden, the production has gone down. Larry Fitzgerald, Megatron, and so on. So the question is DeMarcus Lawrence going to be good for the next 3 or 4 years where he's getting 14 sacks? I don't know. But
I mean, this is what I think. And a lot of Cowboys Nation is going to disagree with me. Mm-hmm. But at this point, you need to be looking for a replacement. If you plan on signing Zach Martin, Dak Prescott, and Zeke Elliott in the future, you're going to have to find a replacement and keep it. Like, we have to do a better job of turnover. Right. We haven't been doing a good job at turnover. We're always caught with our pants down.
Yeah, see, earlier today I did a video called The Dallas Cowboys Fundamental Flaw. And the problem is if you take Tyron Smith's contract, DeMarcus Lawrence, Dez Bryant, Travis Frederick, Sean Lee, Zach Martin, and Tyrone Crawford, and the dead money, that's $107 million right there. That leaves you 70. Yeah, right. Okay, and that's where I kind of go with this stuff. That leaves you $70 million to pay everybody else, which means you're only paying an average of $1.5 million per player. So that's the fundamental problem that you have of paying these guys and holding on too long. You take, for example, New England.
Oh
You
my
take
God.
their top 7 guys. It's only like $70 million.
Did you see the move they did yesterday?
Yeah, I mean they're always making great moves and things like that. We're always seem like we're behind the curve. But here's the other thing, thinking that I've got in my head here. Like I said, I try and throw shit on the wall and see what sticks. The question I have is, how much influence does Chris Richard have?
Okay.
Because you may be looking at Chris Richard's influence right now, him saying the kind of guys he needs. Because here's the thing. He knows Richard Sherman. Cowboys didn't make any play or anything for Richard Sherman. And you know who knows Richard Sherman better than anybody else would be Chris
Richard. Yeah.
Right. And knowing the deal that Sherman ended up making, basically it's only $5 million guaranteed. It's all incentive based. He may know something that we don't. And it may be one of those cases where a Bill Parcells says, if I'm going to do the cooking, let me buy the groceries. And we already know about Byron Jones being moved to corner. This could be one of those moves that's being influenced by Chris Richard trying to get his kind of guys to run his defense.
And see, that's somewhat where I might disagree with what you're saying, because if you look at Seattle, right? Seattle, they're run a little bit differently as far as their old machine. Now, it's a yard sale over there now.
Right.
But I don't necessarily believe that Seattle would have ever brought in a Trumaine Johnson at that point. You know what I mean? Like, they've always had a Byron Maxwell or somebody else over there that they brought in. I forget what the guy Lane. Is it Lane, the other corner that they had?
I believe it is, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't think that we've ever seen them make a type of move like that where I can say this is Chris Richard's doing. So but I will tell you, this has Stephen Jones written all over it.
Could be.
Because, as I said on my video earlier, this reminds me a lot of the Brandon Carr situation. Because Brandon Carr, we thought that we were getting one of the top corners because of the work that he did in Kansas City. But it was more so their front seven. Their front seven was really good.
I never thought that he was going to be a shutdown corner. And believe me, I know a lot of people thought he was going to be like Dion and things like that. But I just didn't see it. And you know what? And I got to spend a couple of days with him because he was working with United Way at a youth symposium and stuff. And when the year that he signed. And I never thought that he was going to be what we had paid him to be. And I think that was one of those times when the Cowboys were just freewheeling and said, well, we need to shut down a corner. And he was the best guy that they had available that they could get. You could put that out there, but I think Trumaine Johnson is much better.
But the same things that you said about Trumaine goes for what Brandon Carr was when we brought him in. He was a great tackler. And he wasn't a bad tackler for us.
Yeah.
He was very healthy.
And part of the problem,
he didn't miss any games.
And again, I think part of the problem too with Brandon Carr was the system was in, because, he ended up playing really well last year and picking up a few interceptions, something he did.
I agree. Yeah.
Defense. And that's where I'm hoping that our defense is evolving and going to more, where we're pressing. We're actually challenging the receivers instead of kicking back and hoping that we just don't make a mistake. So it's going to be interesting to see where this goes. So your feeling is no?
No, my feeling is I'm not going to say it's a definite no. I'm saying if we got to compete with the Raiders, Green Bay, San Francisco, still they have a lot of money. If it gets to the point where it's a bidding war for top level money, I'm saying no. Yeah, if we can find a way, there's a couple of guys who believe that we can get him for a reasonable $6 to $8 million. I don't believe so because of the market of guys chasing.
Well, here's the thing is, but see, you can play with the numbers, okay? I mean, you can end up signing him to a big signing bonus and guaranteed money and prorated over the life of the contract. So I mean, you could sign him to something that's team friendly, and that's one of those things that I think. Ultimately, it would be better suited for the Cowboys to sign DeMarcus Lawrence to a long-term contract, because then we're not taking that $17 million hit. You could get it down to about a $5 million hit for the first year, similar to like what they did with Tyron Smith. But sooner or later, you're gonna have to pay, and you need that production to happen. And football's a crapshoot. Again, my take is I feel okay with the cornerbacks that we have. If we have a great safety. So to me, I'd like to know, is there a plan? Are we just saying that's the best guy and we need to make a move, kind of like the Eagles did with DeMarco Murray? You know, the Eagles basically grabbed him out of desperation because they were losing Pro Bowl players, trading left and right, and then they had the running back from San Francisco who was going to come there. I can't remember his name. He went to Indianapolis after saying,
Gore?
Yeah, Frank Gore, right. Frank Gore was coming there, and all of a sudden, boom, he says, you know what, never mind, I'm going to go to the Colts. They were desperate and said, we got to do something to get these our fan base off our back, and they reached for DeMarco Murray, even though he didn't fit their system. If they're doing something like that just because they haven't made a move, then then it's nuts. But if there's a plan here that we say, okay, look, if we get this guy, we're going to upgrade our cornerbacks. He can go ahead and mentor our younger guys. He's going to fit what Chris Broussard wants to do. And then we've now got a tradable guy in Byron Jones and work on getting a safety. I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
If there's a plan here. But if it's just reaching and grabbing a guy and not trying to figure out what's going to be the best 11 guys on that defense that we can put out there, then it's not any good.
So I guess that there's nobody on our team who would know better if grabbing Trumaine Johnson makes sense more than Dez Bryant if he's covering them for the most part.
True.
So my question is, if they do make this move, how much influence do you think Dez might have had in it? And if he had influence, does that mean he's staying around?
That could be. Well, here's the thing with Dez Bryant. The longer it goes, the better the chance that he stays. Because if you're the Cowboys, you don't want to have bad blood, because other players are going to look and say, well, look what they did to Dez Bryant. If you are, in fact, going to cut him, it's better to cut him sooner than later. However, I will say one last thing about the cuts. To me, when a team comes at you and says, we want you to take a pay cut, it's kind of like the way of letting you know we don't want you anymore and making you make the move. So that way they can save face. Because how many times do we hear that the team wants a guy to take a pay cut, but yet they never take a pay cut? It seems like they're always cut then right after.
Brandon Carr?
Yeah. So, basically it's always, we want you to take, DeMarcus Ware. We want you to take a pay cut. I'm not taking a pay cut. Okay, well, we got to cut you then. To me, that's the way the team tries to save face. Well, we wanted him to stay, but, we couldn't afford him, so we asked him to take a pay cut. But, he wasn't a team player. He wanted more money, so we had to let him go. It's a way of them getting out of the situation and trying to smell as best possible.
Yeah, I totally agree. And they're really setting it up. If we look at the formula of what they've done to Cowboys all over that they're getting ready to cut as far as superstars that fans have had a love fest for. Mm-hmm. This is what they do. They did it with everybody. They did it with Emmett. That's just what they do.
Yeah, he got the rushing title. Boom. Thanks a lot. See you later. And had to finish off his year. Tony Dorsett. He ended up having to go to Denver. It's the thing that always happens. Unfortunately, it's a business. So we'll have to wait and see if there's any truth to it, if they are actually infecting it in there. If nothing else, like I said, I'm just happy that they're trying to do something and try and look around. You're going to make mistakes. Not everything you're going to do is going to be a winner, but at least let's see what we can come up with,
Okay. So I got to ask you another question.
Okay.
So Zeke Elliott was doing a little bit of recruiting for Richard Sherman through Twitter.
Yeah. Just like Aqib Talib is doing with Dez Bryant.
Yeah, he is. So my question is, do you think Zeke was saying that out of frustration, as in, I don't know what we're doing? Or do you think that he knows the plan of them trying to get a corner?
I think it was more of, I don't know, but I think it was more of, if they're not going to do something, let me at least say something and see if we can get the ball rolling. And I'm beginning to wonder, because I saw a tweet from somebody that said that the Cowboys basically were asking, is this fair to be doing all these moves right now? They were getting a clarification, because I'm beginning to wonder if the Cowboys realize that you can start negotiating with people now.
Well, didn't they get a tampering, some kind of a tampering, I guess, a sanction a couple of years ago where it was against the cap? Maybe that's why they're so slow to do this, because in the past, the old way of doing things caught up with us.
Right. But, it seems like there's always one set of rules for everybody else and a different one for the Cowboys.
Exactly.
Well, so that's about all we have on that situation. But, John, tell everybody how to find you, man.
Find me at DMV Dallas Cowboys on YouTube, and you can find me DMV Dallas Cowboy on Twitter.
as well as right here on the Jobu Sports Report. So we've now had another one of these debates and things. If I can get with Cowboys Nation, we're going to end up having a part 2 on the Dez Bryant situation because, he wants to try and go into it. And again, I'm going to go back with him. I'm going to tell you, John, to me, it's not about Dez Bryant if he's going to be able to play. My whole thing was what I just told you about, the numbers. When you've got 7 guys and dead money that costing you $107 billion, that's too much money. You can't field a team. And that's
I feel like unless you're getting a guard in the first round, it might not make sense to bring Dez back because you can see the difference in 2016 with the guard, tackle, with the clean pocket. Then we have more of an effective relationship between them two. But if we don't protect him up front and he can't step up in the pocket,
right? And
what's the point? Doesn't matter who you have a receiver.
Not to give out all my ammunition, but here's another interesting thing. In the 52 Super Bowls that there have been, there's only been 5 MVPs that were wide receivers. 3 of them were Steelers. Okay? And I'm going to put one more out there for you. When was the last time a diva wide receiver won the Super Bowl?
I don't think that I can't tell you when. I can't. I'm sitting here thinking I can't. I mean, we talked about this already, so I already know. And it's crazy because one of those Super Bowl MVPs was Deion Branch, and he's not even an elite receiver. It never was.
None of them were. But my point is when you talk about a Calvin Johnson, big bucks. When you talk about Larry Fitzgerald, big bucks. When you talk about a T.O., when you talk about a Dez Bryant, you talk about all of these big name, high dollar wide receivers. Ain't none of them got a ring.
Wow. Hey, does Desmond Howard count as one of those guys
Desmond was a kick returner.
He was a kick returner, but his position was receiver, wasn't it?
But he wasn't a high-priced wide receiver. He definitely wasn't.
Yeah, I know, but that's the point. It's like,
that's my point. Because here's the bottom line. And now I'm getting into my argument. But here's the bottom line. When Dak Prescott was a rookie, had time and had Zeke Elliott running, and Dez Bryant was there, what did the offense do?
You said when he was there or when he wasn't there?
When he wasn't there.
They kicked butt. They kicked butt. They beat Green Bay. They beat Green Bay without Dez Bryant.
If you protect the quarterback and can run the ball, it doesn't matter who your wide receivers are. You don't have to have the Dez Bryant. I'm just saying. Okay, that's where I'm going to leave it. But anyway, this video is getting kind of long here.
Sorry.
And no, don't be sorry. No, because it was a great discussion. Because we're putting out there a lot of information, a lot of people to know. A lot of the numbers I didn't know until actually I sat down and looked at them and stuff. And that's where it's better to be able to discuss it with somebody else. You've got your point of view, I got my point of view, and here's the actual numbers to try and back it up and see what the Cowboys are thinking. They're thinking that it's going to be an upgrade, and I'm hoping that they're looking at trying to make another move to get that defense even better. Because the reality is, if the defense were, better in a couple of games, we've been in the playoffs.
And the funny thing is I feel like we were 12th total. What was our total?
We were 8th in defense, but it was those games that we didn't have Sean Lee that were the killers. The killers were those 2 games at home where we scored 30-plus points and lost both of them.
Yeah, so you're with me where you think we should shift this thing over to the defense, and we just have to become a great defense, and we can run the football, so we'll be in any game.
The reality is the defense has so much more room they can improve. They can get turnovers. Turnovers will make a major difference. If they can end up being a defense that can stop people instead of saying we got to protect the defense, if they can, they've got more room to grow. The offense can't score that many more points than what they have been scoring. I mean, if you typically, if you score 20 points or more a game, you're supposed to win the game.
Yeah.
And we've been averaging like 26, 27 points a game.
That's more than enough.
It's enough if your defense is able to keep them from scoring, and that's the bottom line. So that's where I say you need to focus in on that defense and your offensive line, and you're in better shape. But anyway, we'll be talking about this some more tomorrow night, and my man John has been working on 261 of the prospects. This week is going to be crazy because of free agency, but that's going to kind of slow down. Then we got to get ready to get focused on the draft, because my man is going to be joining us at the draft along with Shango, along with Law Nation, along with Vosh, and I'm getting people that are emailing. I got a guy who said, man, is it okay if I come through and donate some ribs and some pulled pork? I got another guy who he's got the killer stash and stuff. He wants to come by, so everybody's talking about coming by. This may be the biggest event going at the draft. So, you guys, I want to thank everybody for joining and being part of the Jobu Sports Report. We, of course, will bring you any news that's happening on the Dallas Cowboys as well as the
Hello,
NFL.
friends. CowboyJobu here with an unsolicited opinion on the Jobu wings. You were saying about the wings?
The wings are the best I've ever had. Hands down. Awesome.
Okay, well, we've been passing out our recipe. If you actually look on our YouTube channel, we have all the recipes for all this stuff on here.
With the women, with the ladies.
You know that. Okay, slide in a little bit here. Okay, all right, so on 3. Jay, get in there, man. Okay, we're gonna do How About Them Cowboys. Okay, all right, everybody, on 3, How About Them Cowboys. 1, 2, 3.